Started out in Denver City, Texas. That's where my family was from. My dad, at the time I was born, was a roughneck out in the oil fields, and he wanted a little bit more stable earnings, so he went to work for El Paso Natural Gas. When I was in 7th grade, we moved to Gallup, New Mexico, and that's where I called home and graduated from high school in Gallup, New Mexico in 1975. My dad had a huge influence on me. First off, a couple pieces of advice he gave me is, one, when I got my first job, my dad said, son, you're about to embark on your first job. No pressure, but I want you to know that no Maxwell has ever been fired, and I don't expect you to be the first. And then he said also, if somebody's going to hire you and they're going to pay you $1, you better make them $2 or they have no reason to keep you. And that's always stuck with me. And that's pretty much the simple approach I've taken to my job is I cannot add value in my job, then they have no reason to keep me. My brother Ron, he's a younger brother, 2 years behind me, and he actually attended New Mexico State as well. We were both first-generation students. My mom and dad didn't have the opportunity to go to college, and that was their dream, goal, desire, was that both of their boys would go to college. I played quarterback in high school, and I had an opportunity. I was an okay quarterback, not a great quarterback, and I had an opportunity to play Division II college football. And I was evaluating that opportunity, and then New Mexico State offered to give me a tuition scholarship for my grades. And I started evaluating that, and I thought, do I want to get beat up all the time as an average football player, or focus on academics and have my school paid for, my tuition paid for? And that made it an easy choice to choose New Mexico State. My first love was math, and I wanted to be a math major. And my mother, when I was talking to her, she said, if you're going to be a math major, really, what are you going to do with a math degree? You probably will end up being a teacher at some point. Is that what you want to do? Another alternative is accounting, which has a lot of math in it. Maybe you should look into that. And as I talk to people, that's sort of how I migrated to the business school and majored in accounting. I was fortunate that there were quite a few professors that really had an impact on me, and for different ways, really. I recall the first day of class in Dr. Savage's classes, there were probably 30, 40 people in the class, and he said, I would ask you to go ahead and shake hands with the person on the left of you and introduce yourself. And everybody did that and looked at him quizzically, and he said, because there's a good chance at the drop date that person will no longer be in this class. So he was tough, but he was a great professor. I think a lot of times the professors who are the toughest are the ones that end up having the greatest impact on you. I worked at the bookstore, and so I was on campus, very handy, very easy way to get your 20 hours in a week and still attend all your classes. And I think probably the biggest impact there was, and I wish I could remember her name, she was the manager of the bookstore, she was my boss, and during as the beginning of the semester starting, everybody, all the students are coming into the bookstore, they're buying their books, so there's a lot of deposits, there's a lot of activity going on. And there was one evening where she came up to me and she said, will you go make this deposit at the local bank? And she gave me the keys to her Mercedes. I'm 18 years old, and I had keys to Mercedes and probably in the neighborhood of $20,000 for a deposit. And what really resonated with me was the fact that at 18 years old she trusted me, and that always stuck with me. And I've tried carrying that forward too, because if you trust people, they usually will perform. I started in Bartlesville, Oklahoma, a small town, working for Phillips Petroleum, straight out of college, 1978, so I've almost had 36 years with the company. I always tell this story that it was very interesting that I went and interviewed, and they offered me a job, and so about a week before I was going to leave Gallup, New Mexico, and drive to Bartlesville, Oklahoma to start my first job, the HR director from Phillips Petroleum called. My mom answers the phone. She says, the HR director from Phillips Petroleum wants to talk to you, and she gave me the motherly look like, what have you done? And I got on the phone, and he said, you know, Greg, we offered you a job in E&P. However, if you would be willing to accept an opening we have in the controllers group, we would give you a raise of $50 a month. And I sat there and I thought, I don't really know what E&P is, and I really don't know what controllers is, but I do know what $50 a month is. And I said, absolutely, I'm willing to do that. And I hung up the phone. My mom's looking at me like, what happened? And I said, am I going to work for a great company or what? I haven't worked a single day and I already got a raise. So it was great. I met my wife when I was in Bartlesville. She had just recently moved from Los Angeles to Tulsa, Oklahoma. We've been married 35 years. It's been the best 35 years of my life. I've been very fortunate that Sue is such a supportive spouse, and she raised our two daughters, did an outstanding job, and basically has been the glue that's held everything together and has enabled me to focus on my career. So we're partners, and she gets half the credit for everything I've done. I've got two great daughters, Taryn and Leslie, Leslie being the youngest. They are married to, we've got two great son-in-laws and three grandchildren. Taryn has twins, a boy and a girl, who are Henry and Amelia, who have recently turned 3 and are just a bundle of joy. And then Leslie has a boy, Wyatt, who is headed towards being 2 years old, and it's outstanding. I've been extremely fortunate in my career with Phillips Petroleum, now Phillips 66, and they've given me opportunities, they've challenged me, and have rewarded me. So I've been just extremely fortunate. I did start in the controllers department working in accounting. They gave me an opportunity to work in our corporate planning and development group. From there, I went to Treasury and got to experience and learn the Treasury operations. Gave me an opportunity to be sort of a mini CFO or a finance manager of our business units, an opportunity to be general auditor for the company, and then got to help put together a joint venture with Chevron and Phillips Petroleum Company for our chemicals business. And then with the spin of Phillips 66 from ConocoPhillips in May of 2012, they gave me the opportunity to be Chief Financial Officer of Phillips 66. I was counting up one day, and I think I've traveled on business to almost 40 countries. I've had the opportunity to experience all these different cultures, different ways of doing business, understanding that the United States is the best country in the world from my perspective. I've had the opportunity to work with people from all different areas of the world, as well as different universities, different educational backgrounds, working with the Wall Street bankers, a lot of who went to Ivy League schools and everything. And one of the things that I always look at is I don't think I was disadvantaged whatsoever by going to New Mexico State versus an Ivy League school. You know, I often say with an accounting degree, one of the things that you can prove whether or not you learned the material or not is whether or not you passed the CPA exam. You know, Ivy Leaguers take the same CPA exam as the folks from New Mexico State. I passed, so did they. That tells me that I got a great education at New Mexico State, and it prepared me just as well as anywhere else I could have gone. I lost my dad in 1993, and Sue and I, out of respect for him, started a tuition or a scholarship fund in his name for first-generation college students. And so we continue to try building that, and that's a small way of us giving back to the university, and doing so in honor of my dad, who, quite frankly, if it hadn't been for him and his urging and his support, I wouldn't be sitting here today. So I think it's important. New Mexico State gave me a lot, not only from the professors, but by giving me a tuition scholarship, by giving me the opportunity to go into the work-study program and earn additional money. It was just a great experience, and I'll forever be thankful that they gave me the foundation to start my career. Some of the things I see from young people today is that they come into jobs looking for their next job. Where are you going to move me next? When's my next promotion? When am I going to advance? And what I tell them at the time when they ask that is, rather than looking for your next job, why don't you excel at what your current assignment is, and then you will earn that next move, the next promotion. It's not going to be a gift. You have to earn it. And if you keep that mindset, I think you'll do much better.